moment a leader raises his voice, something invisible breaks. Not authority, but influence. Have you ever noticed how the loudest person in the room often has the least control? How shouting feels powerful for a second and hollow right after? This story isn't about a bad boss. It's about a truth most people learn too late. The moment emotion takes the wheel, leadership quietly dies. Centuries ago, Japanese warriors understood this better than anyone. Miyamoto Musashi, undefeated in over 60 life-or-death duels, believed that the real battle was never against another man. It was against the storm inside yourself. He taught non-attachment to emotion, the ability to stand in chaos without becoming it. In Zen philosophy, this is called mushin, no mind. A state where anger, fear, and ego no longer dictate your actions, where silence becomes strength and calm becomes command. This story reveals what happens when a leader ignores that principle and what changes the moment he finally understands it. If you've ever felt disrespected, overwhelmed, or tempted to react instead of respond, stay with me. Because this isn't just a story about losing control. It's about how to regain it. Watch until the end. The lesson may change how you handle every confrontation from this point forward. The room went quiet the moment his voice rose. Not the respectful kind of silence, no. It was the kind where people stopped listening. Daniel stood at the head of the conference table, jaw tight, fists pressing into the polished wood as if it were an enemy. The numbers on the screen behind him glowed red. Missed targets, delays, excuses in his mind. Do you people even understand what pressure is? He snapped. No one answered. Not because they didn't know, but because they knew better than to speak. Daniel had built his reputation on control. He was decisive, sharp, relentless. At least, that's what he told himself. In truth, what people remembered most was his temper. Meetings that felt like interrogations. Feedback delivered like punishment. Authority enforced through volume. And it worked. At first, when Daniel entered the company years ago, his intensity looked like leadership. Deadlines were met out of fear. Emails were answered instantly. Mistakes disappeared, not because they were solved, but because no one dared admit them. But pressure has a way of changing shape. Now, every challenge felt personal. Every question sounded like disrespect. When someone hesitated, Daniel felt it in his chest, a tightening, a heat that rushed upward before he could stop it. Anger arrived faster than thought. That morning, it was a junior analyst who triggered it. A simple sentence. Calm. Careful. I think the timeline might be unrealistic. Daniel didn't hear concern. He heard defiance. His voice cut through the room. So now you're telling me how to do my job? The analyst shrank back. Others stared at their notes, their screens, anywhere but him. Daniel mistook their silence for submission. But something had changed. After the meeting, conversations stopped when he walked by. Laughter died mid-sentence. Updates became shorter, safer, stripped of honesty. Problems reached him late, when they were already burning. Daniel didn't notice at first. He thought control meant compliance. What he didn't see was the cost. At night, replaying arguments in his head, he told himself they were the problem. If people were stronger, smarter, tougher, he wouldn't have to raise his voice. He never questioned the real source of the chaos. Because the hardest truth to face is this. The moment a leader loses control of himself, he begins to lose everyone else. And Daniel was closer to that moment than he realized. The breaking point didn't come during a crisis. It came during a routine meeting. Daniel was late. Again. When he entered the room, the team was already seated, quiet, waiting. The presentation was halfway through. Charts, projections, risks, real ones this time. A senior manager paused. We adjusted the plan based on the constraints we discussed last week. Daniel didn't hear the explanation. He heard loss. Loss of control. His chest tightened. His breathing shortened. The familiar heat surged up his neck. Without realizing it, he cut in, voice sharp and loud. So now decisions are being made without me. The room froze. Something in his tone crossed an invisible line. Not anger, contempt. The kind that strips dignity away. No one argued. No one defended themselves. They simply shut down. The presentation continued, but it was hollow. Answers became vague. Eye contact vanished. Daniel had the strange sensation of being present, but irrelevant. That night, an email arrived from HR, polite, measured, dangerous, concerns about leadership style, team morale, retention risks. For the first time, Daniel felt something other than anger. Fear. He sat alone in his office long after the lights dimmed, the city humming below. The silence felt different now. Not powerful. Empty. He replayed the moments, the raised voice, the clenched jaw, the satisfaction he used to feel when the room went quiet. And suddenly, it looked different. They hadn't been listening. They had been retreating. Daniel remembered something an old mentor once told him, years ago, before the promotions and pressure. Authority isn't what people fear. It's what they trust. He saw the pattern clearly now. Every outburst had trained his team to hide the truth. Every reaction had narrowed their choices. His need to dominate had slowly erased his influence. The problem wasn't the team. It was the storm inside him. The next morning, the meeting felt unfamiliar. Daniel spoke less. When tension rose, he noticed his breath, short, shallow, and forced himself to slow it. Inhale. Pause. Exhale. Someone challenged an assumption. The heat appeared. But this time, he didn't act on it. "Let's walk through your thinking," he said. The room shifted. Not dramatically, but noticeably. Shoulders relaxed. Voices steadied. Control didn't return all at once. Respect never does. But something more important did. Clarity. Daniel understood now. Leadership was never about forcing silence. It was about creating space. Space for honesty, for trust, for calm. He had lost control the moment he tried to dominate others, and he began to regain it the moment he chose to master himself.